One of the questions that I get asked the most often is, how long would it take me to be able to play the guitar like you? Or just generally speaking, how long will it take me to be able to play the guitar? So while there's not one perfect answer or one size fits all, today let's break down this question so we can finally answer the burning question of the day.
How long is this gonna take?
Hey guys, welcome to the channel. David Chiriboga here, and welcome to the Spanish Guitar Tip of the Week. So this is a hard question to answer when people ask me this at performances or online. It's hard to answer this question without knowing a bunch of variables. After years of people asking me this question, I've just come up with a little bit of a general answer based on my experience, what I see through my students, and based on a hypothetical situation. We're gonna assume three things. We're gonna assume that that student is practicing regularly, at least 5 days a week, 5 to 6 days a week. We're gonna assume that they're practicing at least an hour each time and with focus and intention, which is very important. And we're gonna assume that they are working with some type of mentor or coach, some type of teacher that's just making sure that they have correct form and not practicing any bad habits. So we're working with an ideal situation for an average person. All right, so assuming all of the above is true, a pretty dedicated student, in about 3 to 6 months, you could definitely create some noticeable progress and changes, especially coming from zero. By that time, you should be able to have a nice rough grasp on your basic techniques, be able to play all your first position chords, have your bar chord down, also be able to play some short little melodies or some very simple beginner's pieces. Now again, this doesn't mean that you're dominating at all these techniques and dominating some major pieces. It just means that you should be able to play through some techniques. In Spanish guitar, you should be able to play through your rasgueados. They might not have all the power yet, but you should be able to have a decent grasp on them at a slow pace. Likewise with your picado, you should be able to do a nice little rest stroke melody at a slow pace and start working out some melodies. So I would call this phase one. Now again, everybody is different, so don't compare yourself to somebody else, but I'm just giving you a little bit of a general timeline based on the conditions I mentioned earlier and based on what I've seen through some of my students. Now to get to what I would call phase two, leaving that initial beginner's mode, sounding a little bit less like a beginner, smoothing out some of the techniques, getting a little bit of a cleaner tone, more continuous flow with your playing, that's gonna take you at least a year to a year and a half. Now after this year to a year and a half, will you be playing things perfectly and at an advanced level, and will you need to practice less? Spoiler alert, no, the learning just continues. Virtuosic guitar players will tell you that the learning never ends. The learning just keeps continuing. You always want to keep progressing. Even some of my guitar heroes would tell you the same thing, that they just want to continue to progress and progress. It might not be in certain techniques that they already have down, but it might be just expanding their musical vocabulary, maybe just dipping into other genres or whatever it may be, but there's always something to learn and to try to improve in. So how long does it take to be able to play the guitar? Honestly, even after the scenario I just gave you and that little timeline of maybe 6 months for your first phase and another year to year and a half for that reaching that second phase past the beginner stage, even given that, being able to play the guitar is a very loose term, and it depends on what you mean by that. Some people think that being able to play the guitar means that we don't need to practice anymore, that's it, game over, you're good, you don't need to practice as much, maybe you learned as much as you can learn, but no, it's never the case. Like I just said, it's a continuous process. All right, so something that you probably don't want to hear, but you should hear. With a lot of these techniques, the rasgueados, your picado, your arpeggios, your tremolo, to really refine them, smooth them out, gain speed, and just get a mature sound with them, finding your own voice, it's not something that you can achieve in a year or two. That's something that literally takes years to really develop your own voice and get a nice mature sound in that. So just remember to take everything I said today with a grain of salt. Remember that some people might be able to do this in half the time, some people might take double or triple the time. Remember that we're all different. We all have different genetic makeup, different way of processing things, and different ways of learning. I don't want anybody to get frustrated because they've been stuck on phase one for years and I said that you could do that in 3 to 6 months. Instead of getting frustrated, what you have to really do is assess the situation and find out what's the reason why you're still there. Is it the practice? Is it the amount of practice? The amount of days? The amount of time you put in every day? Or is it the type of focus that you're putting into practice? Do you have horrible practice skills? Are you watching TV and practicing? Or are you really practicing the right way? Or lastly, do you even have a mentor or a teacher? Just making sure that you're not embedding bad habits or making it a lot harder on yourself. So there's so many variables out there. That's why it's not worth it to get frustrated. Instead of getting frustrated, it's better to reevaluate what you're doing.